If you've been around for the past 3 to 4 months, you would have noticed that the cost of items keep increasing. This includes the cost of food or groceries, the cost of electricity and gas, or the cost of fuel. For those who invest in the stock market, you'd have also noticed that the stock market is in decline and the price of houses is beginning to stabilize, and even in some parts of the country is beginning to decline. These are signs of a struggling economy, and there are those who say that we should brace ourselves for a possible global recession. In an attempt to deal with the rising inflation, the Bank of England has increased interest rates for about a third time since the beginning of the year. The government has also introduced some tax cuts, as well as even giving monies to households in the form of council tax reductions. And for those in England, you may have received some checks. The government also recently announced that in October, every household will receive about £400 as a form of energy bill support. All these interventions are meant to help struggling families and households. So clearly, we are in difficult times, and there are those who say that this is similar to the recession in the 1970s. Two main factors have been attributed to the challenges that we face now. The first being obviously COVID, and the second being the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war. While I seek not to be, a prophet of doom, there are signs that things could actually get worse, which would include possible job losses. And so in this video, I'll be explaining or be suggesting some of the possible steps we can take, or some measures individuals and households can take to prepare themselves for a possible crash, and how to mitigate against, impact on ourselves or even our households. Of course, there's little we can do about the Russia-Ukraine war or even about COVID as individuals, at least. But we can take steps as individuals to minimize the impact a possible recession could have on ourselves or on our households. This is Diaspora Careers and Investments, and my name is Shadrach. Stay around. So one of the first things you can do to prepare for a recession, I think, is to find a secure job. So for those who do not have a job, then now is a good time to find yourself a job. But if you have a job, but you do not have, a proper contract, then I think now is a good time for you to find, or to get a contract. I know there are those who may be casual workers and they enjoy the perks of, being able to work, at their own liberty or something like that. But come to think of it, if an organization wants to lay off some of its staff in order to keep some of their profits, who do you think they would lay off first? Obviously, to be those without contract, because if you have a contract, then the organization is bound to give you maybe 3 months notice or even 6 months notice before they can sack you. But in order to prepare for a recession, then I think it's a good time to find a more secure contract so that you'll be given, ample notice to prepare for it. But if you find yourself in a more secure job at the moment, then I think it's a good time for you to, develop your skill further to make yourself irreplaceable. Of course, it doesn't mean that you won't be laid off, because in the past recession, some very high-skilled people were still let go. But if you're able to do more than one person's job, then it means that the organization or your company may be more likely to keep you. So what you really want to do is to make sure that you are doing more than you are supposed to, or making sure that you are irreplaceable. The other thing you can do about your job is to actually have a conversation with your HR about how solid the organization is, what the circumstances will be in a possible recession, whether the organization can stand or not, just to know where you are. And then you can be thinking of whether to move jobs or how to find yourself a more secure job. The second point about preparing for a possible recession is to assess your financial health. Here I mean your financial priorities. One of the challenges about a recession is not knowing what comes next or when it would actually end. So now is actually a good time for you to assess your financial priorities. Ask yourself, how much money do you have in the bank? Or how much money can you easily have access to? How much debt do you have? And then how much does it cost you monthly, really, on essential, expenses like food, transportation, childcare, medical bills, how much do you really spend on this each month? The next thing you want to do is to anticipate your spending for the next 3 to 6 months and then save towards that. This is what some people call an emergency fund, but let us call this, a recession fund. You want to, have enough savings down to cover you for up to even 6 months, or if you can save 3 months, fantastic. But ideally, 6 months while you look for a new job in case you lose your current job in the event of a possible recession. You want to have enough money down to cover your essential bills, be it your mortgage or your rent, your transportation, or your childcare or medical bills, so that you don't struggle a lot where in case the worst happens. The next thing you want to really do now is to actually adjust your budget, to allow you to be able to save more and build this recession fund or emergency fund, if you still want to call it that. So this would include, cutting down on non-essential spending or non-essential, projects that you are doing. If you are, I'm not sure, if you are building a house, which you're not going to live in the next year or something, then you may want to, put a pause on it, unless, of course, that building is going to make you some money. But now is the time to gather as much as possible. Now is the time to even keep some money down. After you build this, 6 months savings, then I think you can go on to, spend money on any other thing that you want. But even that with caution. So this will also include, cutting down on your, some of your subscriptions, whether, there are some people who have, Netflix, Sky, Sky and Netflix, they've got all sorts of subscriptions. Now is the time I think you want to cut down on some of these things. We are in unprecedented times, really. Now is the time you want to save, build an emergency fund, really, if you do not have one. And my recommendation will be, 6 months or, a bit more than that, to prepare for, the worst. So finally, on reassessing your financial health will be to shop in bulk. As you know, think the prices of items keep increasing on a daily. It's not even funny anymore. So if there are items that you use regularly, and they are non-perishables, like whether canned milk or tomato puree or deodorant, sugar, flour, think about the things that you rice, the things that you cook regularly. Now is a good time where you can actually shop in bulk. And of course, I don't want to encourage, panic shopping, but it is only wise that you shop a bit in bulk and keep these down so that you are confident that your food for the next 3 to 4 months will be secure. Of course, as you use them, you replace them and ensure that you will be covered for up to 6 months in case the worst happens. Shopping in bulk also comes with the added benefit that if you shop in the right places, then the cost would even be lower, so you get to save more as well. The third point I'd like to make is to get a side hustle. Now is the time you want to maximize your savings as much as possible. So if you can lay hands on, something on the side to do, then you must definitely embrace it. Who knows? We know of those, who converted their, side hustles into multi-million businesses during the pandemic. And, God may be gracious to you that you come up with that, brilliant idea that would make you, a millionaire in the recession. Hey, when challenges come, there are heroes who rise through those occasions. So you may be one of those. But more importantly, it's actually to maximize your savings as far as is possible, because now is the time to gather. Now is not the time to spend. You want to gather as much as is possible, because the drought is coming. So if you're a nurse, whether you can get some extra shifts or, if you have some time on your hand, if you go online, you can subscribe to Fiverr or other, platforms where you can market your skills and people hire you. If you've got a spare room in your home, you could subscribe to, Airbnb, or you could rent it out to somebody, for, the short term or something, you must, think of ways, to get a side hustle. And there are lots of videos online about that. If you want me to do a video on side hustles that you can do let me know in the comment section, and I would record a video as that. So the fourth point is about debt repayment. While a full-blown recession is not yet in, I think it's a great time for you to pay off your debt, especially the high interest rate ones, because you want to, keep yourself in a position whereby in the event that the worst happens, you'll be able to access some loans or some reliefs. But if you owe already, then the interest will build and you find yourself in a very difficult position. So now is a great time for you to actually pay off your debt. So if you have some personal loans, then you want to pay it off, or credit card debt. Now is the time where you want to pay it off and keep the credit card, in the event of any eventuality. One debt that I would actually not encourage you to pay off or to overpay at the moment is actually your mortgage. If you have a mortgage, then I don't think it is the smartest thing to do to overpay at the moment, because, as you know, if you overpay your mortgage, it is not money you get back, and mortgage rates are pretty low at the moment. So instead of overpaying your mortgage, I'd rather advise you to keep that money aside, so that in the event that the worst happens, you would have that money to be paying your mortgage as though everything is normal. Because if you overpaid your mortgage and the worst happened and you lost your job or something, and you're unable to pay your mortgage, the bank will not say that, oh, because you overpaid in the last 3 months, we are going to use those overpayments to cover you. No, they will not say that, unless of course you apply for some reliefs. So I really think that now is not a great time to overpay your mortgage. Keep that as as savings, and the event that things get back to normal, you can overpay in bulk, rather than overpaying and locking up money you won't have access to. Of course, if you have, an emergency fund that can cover you for the next 6 to 7 months, then you may want to, consider overpaying your mortgage. But until you've done that, I would strongly, advise against, overpaying your mortgage, because we really want to be ready for the worst case. And so that leads to my final point. I'm assuming you've saved, an emergency fund for the next 6 to even 7 months. You've paid off your high interest loans, and you've got money on your credit card down in the case of the worst happening, and you've still got some excess liquid or some spare money. How do you go about using that? I think it's still a great time to invest. Remember that our aim for investing in the stock market is really to buy our time in the market. And so given that stock prices are going down, you want to still buy on the dip, whenever it goes down. For example, if you invest in the S&P 500, and in the beginning of the year it was selling for about $62 per share, and now it's selling for 50, you still want to buy. If it goes to 40, you still want to buy, but it will not be the place where I'll put most of my money. You want to diversify. So while I'll still be buying some shares and some stocks, you don't want to put all your money there, because it could keep going down. But definitely don't sell at the moment, because if you sell lower than you bought it, then you would have lost. Remember, when the stock market goes down, it definitely rises again. So you want to buy with the dips, and then when it starts rising, you make the profits. But you also want to put your excess money into a business or into something that would give you some cash flow. So I mean, if you can have a place where you can rent out or something and put a tenant in, then you can be guaranteed that every month you'll be getting something coming in. Or any other business that you think will be giving you some cash flow, something that you'll be getting money regularly. That would be fantastic. Whether you want to buy a taxi or whatever business that you can think of, it will be good. If you think you've got all of these covered, you've got a side hustle, you've got your savings, but you've still got excess money, then it actually wouldn't be bad for you to actually keep some money also down. Because as I said previously, the housing market, for example, has stabilized, fairly stabilized, and is beginning to show signs of a dip. Remember, if the market crashes, the prices of items will come down, including houses. So if you are pretty liquid at that time, then you can buy some, very good houses for cheap. So you want to prepare for a possible recession. I know there may be some who are watching this video and be wondering that all this is, fear mongering, or, this is a hoax. Hey, remember, we've just come out of a pandemic, and there are those who thought it was a hoax. But hey, let's assume that, you save for the next 3 to 6 months, you put money on the side, waiting to buy with the dips and all of that, and there is no recession. What do you have to lose? You still have your savings, and you would have learned, a great habit which you can continue even post possible recession. But if there is a recession, then at least you are prepared. I hope and I truly hope that there will not be a recession, because I think that, no matter how much you prepare for, you would still feel, and I'm feeling that, the impact of, high fuel prices and all of that. We are all affected. Or if you are not even affected directly, it would affect a friend or a brother, and you would have to help at some point. So I really pray that there is no recession. But if there is, at least you wouldn't say that Shadrach did not tell me. I hope you found this video helpful. Stay blessed and watch out for my next video. Thanks.